Welcome back to Garage Matters. We'll be going over this 1994 Toyota Celica GT-Four and some of the factory options that makes it a WRC, a race car built by Toyota for the sole purpose of rally racing. We'll go ahead and take a look at this spectacular hood that came from the factory. Here we have an oversized grille to help extract the hot air from the engine bay on out. Here we also have a cooling vent that actually goes down into the timing belt to help keep the timing belt cooler. Up here, you also have additional hood vents to help extract the hot air from the engine bay on out. Now this rear spoiler here on the end of this hood right here, this you'll only see on WRCs. Now they said it's supposed to help with cabin ventilation as far as the airflow coming through here and into here and then into the cabin. But what I really think it's for is to help keep the hood from vibrating up and down like that when you're traveling at high speeds. Now this liner looks like it might be falling apart. This car is 30 years old, but I'm trying to keep it as original as possible, so I'm going to leave it up here for a time being. Here you have where the ram air is coming from the top side. It's going to exit here and come down into here where the timing belt is. Now here we also have a functional hood vent to help extract that hot air out from the engine bay. Same thing over here. Functional hood vent to help extract that hot air out. Another unique thing about this hood is its weight. This hood is made out of aluminum, so it's going to help save on that weight. And we'll go ahead and put a magnet on it to see if it sticks. Looks like this magnet's not going to stick. I'll show you that it's a magnet. Sticks over here just fine. So this hood over here is made out of metal. This one that comes on the Celica GT-Four is made out of aluminum. Now up here on top of the struts, we have the strut brace that's connected to the chassis up here. And this is supposed to help with the lateral rigidity of this car going side to side. Now something that I mentioned in the prior videos is this anti-lock bypass valve right here. So this is also WRC specific, and what that means is Toyota had to make 2,500 of these Celica GT-Fours include these WRC items to this car in order to be homologated for the WRC. Up here we got the intercooler. What's fascinating about this intercooler is that it's not your regular front mount air intercooler. It's actually a top mount air to water intercooler. So in this radiator cap, pop it open and you put in radiator fluid in here. Then you'll come up to the front of the vehicle, and the radiator for the intercooler is right here, right in the front. This next row right here, this is for the engine. So you got one radiator for the engine, one radiator for this top mount intercooler. Now something that I forgot to mention about WRCs is that on this front mounted radiator, there's actually on the inside of this bumper right here 3 water spray nozzles that spray water onto the front radiator to help cool the radiator. Now if you didn't know, Toyota was banned from WRC in 1995 due to a restrictor plate in here. The restrictor plate was to limit the overall horsepower of these vehicles to 300 horsepower. But in this case, this restrictor plate in here, it would open up and allow more air to go into the turbo, building more boost, giving this car extra horsepower and the advantage. Toyota was caught with this cheating scandal, and ever since then, this GT-Four has just been given a bad rap. Now let's take a look at this snorkel. Most snorkels, when I see them on vehicles, they're usually on off-road vehicles on the intake side. But this rubber snorkel is attached to this alternator right here. Now since this is a race car, you definitely don't want your alternator to be overheating and cause you to lose a race or break down. So that's why Toyota went the extra mile to go ahead and put this snorkel to help keep this alternator cooler. We'll take a look at the throttle body. I want to show you guys something on the underside of this throttle body. Now I'm going to do my best to show you guys the water spray nozzle. This is a WRC specific item again. So it's right here. Now this water spray nozzle is going to help cool the air and fuel before it enters the intake manifold, allowing you to run higher boost. Here we have the tubing for the water spray nozzle. They're going to travel down through this fender and down into the reservoir. Let's take a look at the wheels. If you notice, they're nice and straight. I'll get a close-up. Now, if you ever jacked up a vehicle before and you paid attention to it, the tires will end up drooping inwards like that. Now, this vehicle has the super Strut suspension, so what that's gonna do is gonna help keep this tire nice and straight like this. So when it's flying through the air and it lands back down, the tire's gonna stay nice and straight so you don't lose control. We'll go ahead and take off this tire and see how the braking system looks like. We'll take a look at this rotor right here. This is an aftermarket rotor. I kept it the same size, so it's the same size as the factory one, but I went with slotted ones because I heard mixed reviews about the cross-drilled ones. The ones that are drilled, I guess they're pretty good too, but I've also heard that the drilled ones are prone to cracking if you get the cheap ones. So that's why I went ahead and stuck with the slotted ones. Now these rotors, they're roughly around about 12 to 13 inches in diameter. So this is a pretty beefy rotor for a factory car. We'll take a look at this brake right here. So these calipers, there's two little humps right here. So what that means is this, it's a 4-pot system. So there's 4 pistons in here, one right here, and 2 in the back. So this braking system has 4 pistons to clamp down on this rotor to give it that stopping power. Now another nice touch that Toyota did with this car was emboss the word Celica on it. So these are actually raised lettering. They're not stickers or painted on. It really gives it a nice touch to this car. Now we'll take a look at this strut right here. So it's connected to this figure 8 down here. This figure 8 down here, connected down here. Then this also is connected up to this upper ball joint right here. So this strut's connected to this wheel hub at 2 places. That's what helps keep this tire nice and straight when it's doing those sweet jumps. Alright, now we got the tire back on. Now I don't know how true it is, but I know when you're towing this vehicle, you can't tow it on 2 wheels like this on a car dolly because you'll mess up the all-wheel drive system. So as far as like turning this wheel when it's jacked up like this on just the front 2 tires, I wouldn't recommend turning this wheel. Like a lot of people like to turn this wheel for the fun of it when they're doing maintenance on their cars, but on an all-wheel drive vehicle, I wouldn't recommend it. Alright, the vehicle's not jacked up high enough. But here, we're at the rear of the car. Here we have the prop shaft coming to the rear differential back here. And this is to drive the rear wheels. Now, if you think the Supra is the only car that came with a big wing, you thought wrong. The Celica GT-Four comes with an even bigger wing. Look at the size of this wing. This thing is massive. Now, another WRC exclusive is this riser block right here. This section right here, you'll only see on WRCs. And you'll know it's a WRC because it actually has GT-Four embossed in this riser block. This massive wing is to help give the car additional downforce to keep this car stable at high speeds. Now with this trunk open, it also has this rear strut bar to tie in the rear section. Toyota went ahead and took the extra mile and went ahead and covered it up with this nice leather cover. Go ahead and unzip it so you can see what it looks like. Here you have that bar to tie in the strut towers. We'll go ahead and zip it back up, keep it nice and clean. So how much horsepower does this car make? Well, from the factory settings at 10 psi, she's rated around 250 horsepower. But if you want to have some fun, all you gotta do on this car is crank up the boost. Now one of the few race cars out there that's been homologated in order to compete in the WRC this Celica GT-Four WRC is a true hidden gem. Join us next time on Garage Matters, and remember to hit that like and subscribe button.